right now. Darren.
You know, Andre DuPont, the old Philadelphia Flyer tough guy, was nicknamed Moose.
And you being a tough guy.
Right. But in hockey, when I was younger, another player came across the middle and made the most devastating check I've ever made in my life. Take off the helmet, and it's a girl. So the coach slapped it. Attaboy, Moose. Just like the Moose. And I'm like, I have no idea who that is, right?
The one sports show where roughing is encouraged. How about that?
Good morning, John.
That's a great story.
Rod Pedersen Show on the air for a Football Friday here. Final day of the week, getting into the long weekend here across the country as we say good morning. And we've got our Caliber coffee is hot and ready to roll. And good morning to you, too. Wayne is watching, I believe, in Victoria. I saw that. Jay Cassian, good morning from Winnipeg. Not Winterpeg or Winnipeg. Winnipeg, because they're up 1-0 on the Edmonton Oilers heading into tonight's game, too.
And defending Grey Cup champions for the last 2 years.
There you go. They are Winnipeg.
Yeah.
The Snowman's checking in from Carolina. Good morning, Snowman. Good to see you watching this morning. William May says, good morning. We're all ready for Football Frenzy. They're ready for you, John.
Good.
That's good. And I know we got some great stuff to get to this morning. So good morning to everybody watching. Lauren Smith watching from Kamloops. Carlos Lagena watching from his usual spot. So Bo Halverson's watching in Saskatoon. Stacy Champagne, good morning, good morning, good morning. Well, lots to get to on the show today, John. How are you? How's the week been? I haven't talked to you in a week.
Great weekend. Lots of fun. A lot of people talking football. They are enthused. They want to see it. They believe it's going to happen. And they believe it's going to happen on August 5th. If it doesn't happen, they'll be disappointed, and the alternative would be Labor Day probably. But the prevailing feeling out there right now, Darren, is it's going to happen for August 5th, which I think is great.
Okay.
And training camp in 3 weeks.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Right off the hop, before we do anything else, we are going to have a positive day, John. There's not going to be any negativity around here. We're going to be positive. We're going to send you into the weekend feeling great and optimistic about whether it's football or your hockey team. So get your comments in. Whatever you want to talk about, I'll give you a reason to be optimistic and happy about it, okay? Whether your team lost, Clark, me, I'll give you reasons to be optimistic, okay? You were watching a lot of hockey this week, too.
Yeah, I sure was. A couple of great games. I was really surprised the way Winnipeg beat Edmonton 4-1. A great game, and that team in Winnipeg's doing well. They're a pretty good hockey team, and I don't know. The Oilers can't do it in the playoffs, eh?
I know.
Back in my era when I was a kid, automatic. 5 Grey Cups in 7 years, 5 Stanley Cups in 7 years. Got to get the sports right. But not now. It's I thought the Jets looked just terrific.
You watched the game last night, Leafs and Habs?
Yeah. Oh, what a winning goal, eh? Wasn't that incredible?
Paul Byron.
That was a great game. That was a super game. And I'll tell you, in the Edmonton-Winnipeg game, the game's rolling around. We're in the 10-minute mark of the third period. All of a sudden, they stopped the game, eh?
Yeah.
Because a shot by Lord Stanley from the blue line. It was a howitzer, eh? Went into the back of the net out before anybody saw it, but somebody did catch it. So they stopped the game to look at it and review it, and it should have been a goal. Went in, back out. It was a goal, so Winnipeg was given the lead of 2-1. And after that, it was pretty easy pickings for the Jets. They got 2 more empty net goals and certainly controlled the game. And I don't know, Oilers weren't very effective at all. Nobody was very effective for the Oilers.
Yeah, it's tough. And we got lots of time. We'll get into teeing up tonight's game, Oilers and Jets, a little bit later on. Jack Fulton watching from snowy southern Alberta. Kyler, good morning from snowy Cudworth, Saskatchewan. Good to see you guys watching. I saw this on must have been Facebook or Instagram yesterday. You know why they call it May, John?
Why?
Because it may rain, it may snow, it may be sunny, it may...
Oh, that's pretty good. Pretty good. That's so true, isn't it? So true, but I know.
Isn't it?
All my life, you're counting on May, April to be nice and warm. And they can be for 3 or 4 days, but then they get cold. Look at last week, eh? Beautiful week. Fantastic week. Equivalent of 82, 84 above. Then on the weekend, just terrible. Snowing, cold, icy, slippery out there. And it's miserable today. Just a miserable day. You know?
Prairie Mobile text line's open, 306-840-8777. We'll get to your comments there. And also up on the big board, too, Facebook, YouTube, those of you watching. And if you're on Game Plus Television Network, pull out your phone and send a text, 306-840-8777. But, Jordan, let's go with the quick six show topics. Leafs Habs last night, 2-1 Montreal. So much for Craig Button saying the Leafs will win in 4 games and Montreal won't win a game.
So much for old Craig Button. Eh?
But look, this is how it is in the playoffs. We look at paths to victory, right?
Yeah.
And ways you can win. Yeah. And we did that with Dustin Nielsen. We talked about the Oilers and the Jets. And it still remains true. The Oilers, I think, have more paths to victory than the Jets do. The Leafs have more paths to victory than the Montreal Canadiens do. Yeah. But Montreal and Winnipeg both have one very real path to victory, and it's goaltending. Yeah. Connor Hellebuck in Game 1, and Carey Price last night was outstanding.
Oh, Carey Price was the old Carey Price. He was fantastic last night. Really incredible. And Hellebuck the other night, he had a great game, a sensational game. But still, that's the path. They can win. I believe right now, I'm thinking now, Winnipeg can win that series. And I hate to say that other side, but I really do think that Montreal's got a real good chance of winning this one against
Yeah, no, I agree.
Against Toronto.
One thing that needs to be said, too, nobody is lucky in the National Hockey League.
No.
We need to get that out of here right away. The Habs weren't lucky. The Jets weren't lucky. Fortunate, maybe. Lucky, no. They're good hockey teams. They found a way to win, right?
Yeah.
And they did. So, Jets, Habs up. We got to give them kudos.
But some people in Winnipeg were complaining, that wasn't a goal. That wasn't a goal. But it was. They played it back and forth and back and forth. There was a goal. A great shot by Lord Stanley. In and out like a howitzer. And
Logan Stanley.
Yeah, Logan Stanley. And it just changed the complete change of the whole thing. And Winnipeg or Edmonton were beaten after that. And it was 4-1 finally. 2 empty net goals.
Wayne Grollo's watching. He says it was a disappointing night for me as both the Leafs and Oilers lost. I was hoping to see a Leafs versus Oilers division final. Well, it's one game. I still think you will see that. But talk to me in a week and we'll see where we're at then. Point 2, John Tavares. And this was uncomfortable. I've seen a lot of plays like this, John. Not like that specifically, but I've seen players get knocked out. I've seen players down for long periods of time. I've seen players get stretchered off. I've seen ambulances, whether it's on a football field or a hockey rink. But for me, when that happened and you have a silent rink like that, and the way he fell back when he tried to I was really uncomfortable. Yeah. And that doesn't happen very often.
No.
It was hard to watch.
It was hard to watch. Everybody was saying it accidentally.
Of course.
But I didn't think it. I thought it was more intent there than I've seen in a lot of situations. But the prevailing feeling out there is it was accidental.
Well, I don't think that I don't know that there was any intent to it. I mean, Corey Perry and John Tavares
are great buddies.
Are close. But in that situation, you don't know who's on the ice. It moves so fast, right? You don't know who's down there. But we often are so quick to pass judgment without really understanding what's happened or any of the information. But I get it. We can only use the information we have, right, when we make these assessments on, the fight. And that's what everybody wanted to talk about last night. And it's the subject of our Capital Automall Universal Collision Center daily poll question. And we'll see how Clark decided to word this. But it's basically, do you agree with the fight last night? Do you agree with the Foligno-Perry fight following the John Tavares incident? And 69% of you are saying no. I'm surprised it's as high as 31% saying yes, John, because it was rousing saying the fight was not necessary. Yeah. And I'll start this off by saying I agree with you. I think the fight was completely unnecessary. I think it was an accident. But I'll tell you why I think it happened. And I listened to the post-game press conferences, and Foligno says they knew it was an accident. He said, yeah, if it was an accident, I don't really know. But it's our captain laying on the ice. So they wanted to have some kind of a response. This is the playoffs. Yeah. So you get the response. And Corey Perry said finally, kind of rolled his eyes and said, yeah, well, okay, I'll do it. And if you noticed, he didn't fight back.
No.
Right?
No.
Corey Perry didn't fight back. No. So there's that respect factor there of just understanding, okay, this is going to happen whether it's silly or not. No. And the other angle to it is you got to remember the Leafs didn't get to see a replay.
No.
There was no replay in the building.
No.
And your coach
Which is hard to believe.
Right. And your coach is fired up and yelling, and some teammates are fired up, and your captain's laying on the ice, and it's Corey Perry skating away from the incident that just knocked your captain out.
Yeah.
And as a new guy on the team, you're kind of fired up and looking for an opportunity to build some cred within your locker room, standing up for your captain, so you go ahead and do that. And also you take care of it so some other wingnut on the team doesn't try and do something stupid later when Corey Perry's in a vulnerable position. But at the end of the day, they're going to go in the locker room, they're going to watch the replay and say, okay, that was an accident, probably didn't need to fight him, feel a little whatever, and move on.
But the thing that you wonder about is sooner or later there's going to be an accident, fight in a situation, whether it's an accident or not, that's going to really hurt somebody, and that's what scares me. I mean, I thought that was quite a collision, those two, quite frankly. You know, I don't know. What's the story in Tavares? Is he okay?
Well, he's been released from the hospital. He went to the hospital last night, and producer Clark just lets me know that they've announced he's at home and resting now. So, yeah.
John Tavares.
The official word, John, he's progressing well, but out indefinitely.
John Tavares, much talked about hockey player as a kid, comes to in New York, does a so-so job there over the years, gets traded to Toronto. Do you think he's helped them that much?
John?
Yeah.
Almost a point-a-game guy, but is that worth $11 million?
No.
I'm not sure. No. You know, it's funny. Comments are rolling in about is that fight justified or warranted. Rod chimes in this morning, and he'll be back in this chair on Tuesday. Note the programming note. Monday's the day off, the holiday, so we'll be back on the air Tuesday, and Rod will be in the chair. And then the Habs scored immediately. He's right. The fight wasn't about changing momentum or anything like that. It didn't do anything for the team. The Leafs were kind of pretty dull after that for a little while.
They sure were. They were. And they scored. Montreal scored immediately after that. That's true. Yeah.
James Henderson's watching, I think, in Borden, Manitoba. I'm not as good as remembering all the names and faces as Rod is. That's his superpower. Accident or not, you need to pay the price for taking the captain up. Good for Perry to answer the bell and stand up. But that was kind of like, look it, your brother's upset because you broke his PlayStation and he's going to wail on you. And you just kind of be like, look it, I didn't break it. You'll learn this later that it was an accident.
Yeah.
But in the moment,
you react in that fight.
You react in the moment, right?
Yeah.
So that becomes tough. That's the other side of it. And William May echoes those thoughts. After the hit, the Leafs were not themselves. So there you go. So Rod says, good day on YouTube. Good day, Rod. Tavares has absolutely helped the Leafs. That's from our intern, Rachel. I think so. I mean, they made him the captain, so obviously there's some value there.
But we were looking for him to be a superstar again. Remember when he came back?
I think that's what is the unrealistic expectation when you get guys like this, or when guys are drafted first overall. You expect them to be generational talents. Now, he was an exceptional status player in the Ontario Hockey League. John Tavares was. He's one of those upper echelon, top 1% in the NHL kind of guys. But Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby only come around every 20 years, right?
Yeah.
You know, you can't expect every superstar that you pay $10 million to be that. But it's interesting. So we'll monitor John Tavares' situation, see if he returns at some point. Scary incident last night. But it brings me to point 3. And fighting in hockey, and where you sit on this, and whether you think fighting in hockey is right or wrong, whether you're on the side that there's a place for fighting or fighting needs to be out of the game, it's important to look at the facts. Younger players are fighting less and less than they ever have. There's less and less fighting in the game. And if you're worried about fighting, having a place or not having a place, there's a couple of things you need to know. One, if you're on the side that fighting needs to be out of the game, you're going to have a little patience, because there's still a lot of people that grew up with fighting in the game that feels it has a place, right?
Oh, they go nuts.
It was part of your, all the hockey you've watched.
Yep, lots of it.
Right?
Usually fight every game.
Right. And I would think I'm 34, John, and I'm probably right around the youngest part of the demographic that grew up with fighting in the game.
Yeah.
Right? I'm probably the youngest part of that demographic, and the younger people aren't as into it. And I think as we start to age up and less of the demographic is from that group that grew up with fighting, you'll see the fighting go with it. I mean, it was just 12 years ago that there was around 0.64 fights per game. It's a little more than a fight every 2 games, right? 12 years later, today, this season, 0.19 fights per game. That means it's less than a fight every 5 games. So the numbers are going down anyway. You just have to be patient. It's not going to happen
and in
overnight.
my era, and Rod Pedersen's era, no, his dad's era, I should say, there was a fight every game.
Every game.
Especially when Rolo played out.
At least one.
Especially when Rolo played Milestone.
How about that?
Or Foam Lake played Wynyard.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. But if you are those in that group that likes fighting and thinks it has a place in the game, you're going to have to start to accept that it might not be around that much longer. John Ohm on Facebook, how about those Habs, Clark? I like that I haven't put myself out there that aggressively that they're not trolling me. Clark's getting all of it. Kevin Olnick on YouTube says, I think the NHL needs to look at how they handle players leaving on a stretcher. We can't expect players to just get back to normal, get players off the ice, and clear their heads. He gave the thumbs up as he went off, so that was always, you always want to see that. Wayne Grollo, again, I hope the Leafs can get over losing Tavares and get back to how they played during the regular season. I think a day off will help. I really do. And Jeff Kabila says, not a fan of fighting, but it happens. The staged stuff is garbage. And Don McNeil, one final thought. The game has evolved. Fighting is naturally disappearing. That's it. Just evolve, right? You know, evolve and grow, and whether that includes fighting or doesn't include fighting, you have to be able to grow and adapt. John, we're going to flip gears now. We've got a little bit of the hockey out of the way. I only got to point 3. Quickly, point 4 was just NHL playoff recaps. Ryan Lundberg ended a wild 6-5 game for Florida, and the Rats are in business against Tampa. Pens beat the Isles 5-4 to lead 2-1. Crosby, another unbelievably sensational defensive play in that game. And the nightcap, Vegas, Marc-Andre Fleury was a little shaky early on, let in those 2 quick goals, but didn't see a lot of action, shut it down the rest of the way. Vegas got on it, never looked back, and won that game. So Vegas goes up 2-1 on Minnesota.
I think that hockey overall that I watched on the weekend, just terrific.
Unbelievable. All right.
Not on the weekend, the last 2 or 3 nights. Just terrific. Just terrific.
Unbelievable. Football next. The president of Football Canada, Jim Mullen, will join us on the video chat, I believe, from his beautiful Bowen Island estate. It's the Rod Pedersen Show. Rod's week off here on Game Plus Television Network, Facebook and YouTube Live, and 24-hour sports talk at rodpedersen.com.
You're watching Rod Pedersen on demand. For more of the Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.